Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in our module 4 of the training. Oh. Okay, let's do this. So we covered module 1 till 3 last time. This is module 4. Okay, so in this module, we'll be covering a bit about, where do you find new Muslim if we are setting up a new team or committee at your masjid or a different organization. We'll cover introduction, explanation, a suggested plan, sharing resources, discussing common obstacles, and then agreeing on next steps with the new Muslim. So this is the plan, inshallah. So I think this kind of came up last time, what is a new Muslim? Does that depend on ethnicity, time, or what, right? So again, it's a terminology, and like any terminology, what's most important is, the one talking about it and the one hearing about it should understand and have the same meaning. And then as long as that's happening, it doesn't matter. We don't have to have an exact definition of it. So, for our perspective, we are defining it as someone who doesn't pray, let's say, right? Doesn't pray or doesn't know how to pray, just wants to have a fresh start, wants to start practicing Islam. And there are many, many people like that actually fall into that category that you would not think of falling into that category. And we'll talk about that in a bit. So that includes non-practicing Muslims. And, we do have people that we mentor. And, from a traditional perspective, many people would just think that, yeah, they're just born and raised in a Muslim family. But then there are many, many people who don't know how to pray, right? Or haven't been praying, and so on and so forth. Sometimes there are people who, now are lacking a purpose in life, looking for purpose, looking for meaning in life, but they have just like been in a Muslim family, but they haven't been practicing. They find emptiness. You might see new faces in the masjid. Revert marriages are another angle that you see a lot of new Muslims coming into the masjid, not necessarily from the Dawah table. Another good resource, and this is obviously the time of creating presentation. These things change over time. So at some point, I don't know if it's popular today or not, there was a very popular site called meetup.com, or maybe it still is, where people actually look for events. So non-Muslims would traditionally, or new Muslims would traditionally, let's say, would see what's happening around spiritual events around them. So it may be a good idea to kind of post, if you're having any new Muslim friendly events, to post it on there as well, or whatever is the website or app or portal of the day. Okay, so that's just like, some ideas of finding new Muslims. If you guys have any other ideas where, you can find new Muslim, feel free to put it in the chat. Oh, let's make sure, where is my chat? Bring it here. Okay, good. Okay, so now once that's done, what would happen is maybe there's a Shahadah that's happening at the masjid, or you're part of, let's say, Dawah Canada, so they might, send you a contact of a new Muslim that they have, and then you'll be reaching out to them. So typically, yeah, very good, right? So again, high school and universities, youth centers, right, doing programs there or reaching out. I think that's really, really great idea, right? That's really important as well. So you will be reaching out to them, and then you'll be saying, hey, I'm part of the new Muslim newcomer success team, whatever you are called in terms of organization that you're part of. You introduce yourself, and then, see, like, if they have a time today, right? So you want to make sure that they have enough time for a call or for a meetup or coffee or what have you. If not, then you can schedule a follow-up later. Try to share some who you are, understand who they are, just have some sort of introduction, breaking the ice sort of thing, understand what their current commitments are, school, work, things like that. So the last thing I have is like, asking them what they understand about Islam. So one thing that we actually asked as, one of those 10, 20 or 12 questions that we had is that new Muslims usually have a pretty good, solid understanding of what Islam is. And, when you ask this question, you will actually be surprised that many people don't, right? So now, one feedback we gave last time is, just for the Dawah teams or anyone giving the Dawah, to really emphasize and make sure the person understands what Islam is, when they're walking away from it, and when they're walking away with the Shahada. But nevertheless, you now being the primary contact, your primary mentor, primary coach, you want to make sure that they understand, ask them first what they know about Islam, and help them understand, and we'll suggest a plan for that in a bit as well. Okay. All right. So here are some of the things that you want to cover when you start explaining, right? What is the Islamic worldview? Why are we here? Who is Allah? The notion of that, look, paradise requires effort. It's not that you have a Shahada and then, you sort of have some sort of a Shahada card and then that will just take you to paradise. No, it actually requires effort. Right. So just the claim of, oh, I love Allah, that's not enough, right? I mean, in the human beings, like, when you say you love someone, it actually necessitates doing things that the person that you love loves, right? And also that we understand that it's a gradual process. It's not like a 360 turn, not a one-day thing. Okay. So how you will do that is, we really want to emphasize that it should be a discussion. Don't make it like a one-way street where you are lecturing, because then they will say, yes, right, and then you don't know if they're understanding or not. So that's just like a reminder. Actually, it's a good reminder for me as well. Just reviewing these training actually helps, right? Because sometimes you get too used to it and you're like, okay, boom, 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 right? So you want to make sure that the person is actually understanding what you're saying, which right now I'm not doing. So I'm not a great example of that. I hope you guys are understanding. You guys are understanding about it. Okay, ask open-ended questions, understand their thought process, see what they're thinking, and check in, make sure that, if you're responding to something, make sure that they're understanding it, or ask them to repeat it, and so on and so forth. And, make them comfortable, right? That it's a non-judgment thing. You're not judging them for their commitment. You're not judging them for their practice, but you're here as a mentor, as a coach, to help them. Okay, so this is my suggested way of when I explain Islam to them, and I think that should also be incorporated in the Dawah scene as well, especially when you're closing. So this is my preferred way of helping people understand Islam. So I also suggest like Dawah teams to also consider incorporating that in their speech as well if they currently do not. So the first question is, what is our world view, right? Do we think that, hey, this is like a resort, a place to have fun, and everything should be nice and dandy, right? Because people sometimes think like that. That's why they're asking, why is there pain in the world? Because they have a different lens, they have a different worldview than what their worldview is. So, for example, if you go to, let's say, a masjid like ISNA Canada, for example, guess the closest related one to Dawah Canada, you expect them, the management to usually take care of the heating, the temperature, the water being there, the wudu facilities, facilities for you to keep your shoes or what have you. Same ways, like if someone invites you to a wedding, you'd have a different set of expectations. But if someone invites you to a gym, right, or a sports session, you would have different expectations. So people sometimes have like wrong expectations because they don't realize the nature of the world. So that's one of the things that you want to do. But however, what we want is that, look, this is like a testing place. It's an examination place. It's a training place. And the results will be done later, right? Kind of like this picture that, people work hard for 4 or 5 years, then they're tested about their understanding of whatever degree or program they're studying. And then there's like the graduation event and so on and so forth. So another way is like it's a training ground, right? You're not comfortable. You're actually challenged in different scenarios when you are being training. So you wouldn't hate your coach or mentor or examiner or trainer if he or she is training you and making you work hard and challenging you in different scenarios. So again, going back, what is Islamic worldview, right? So I like to use these verses. You can go through it with them if you choose to, or you can summarize. So this is the creation of human being, right? There was, we tell them to look, Allah, the creator, the God, he has a creation, which are angels. They do not disobey God. So if Allah wanted, he already had that creation. They will do exactly what they are told. However, at one point, Allah told the angels, that I will be creating and putting a successor on this earth. And the angels actually had the same question, that why create human beings? Because human beings will create, mischief, and they will kill each other, they will spill blood, and so on and so forth. And we are always obeying you, we are always glorifying you, so why? And then obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them that, look, you don't know, you're making a judgment based on what you know, but you don't know everything. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically showed them and demonstrated them the special quality of Adam, the first human being, by blessing him with knowledge about different things. And that was manifested. You can go through the verses with them. And, obviously angels realize that, and they say, look, we don't have knowledge except what you have told us, and you are the all-knowing, all-wise. So you can see here that, why create humans, right? So it's a very interesting creation. Okay, that is that Allah has given the human beings a free will. By the same time, Allah is fully in charge. Okay, and it has the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, obviously, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very, very vast. We cannot enumerate all of it. But if you think about it, it actually shows the perfection and the magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is able to create creation and give them free will, but at the same time be able to control them. Okay, that's a very interesting concept. So if you take a look at, for example, any societies, right? So take a look at Canadian government or US government or any government, what happens is there's a fine balance. Okay, so they give free will to the human being. They give like freedom to the citizen of the country or the visitors to the country, up until a point that they are able to control. Okay, if it becomes too much, they actually restrict the freedom. So I mean, obviously that happened with COVID, because with COVID and all interactions, they were not able to cater to the medical needs, so they restricted the engagement, and they brought in masks and isolation and lockdowns and all that stuff. Same thing goes for gun control as an example, right? Yes, you can have, but there are certain laws and regulations depending on which state, which country you're in. However, those things are related to the control that the government can have and what they're able to deal with and what is beyond their capacity. So Allah has given us free will, but at the same time, He's fully in charge, that even with our free will, we are not able to do something that Allah doesn't want to happen. So that actually shows the power and perfection of Allah, that how powerful, perfect He is, and that He can actually have all these human beings with free will, but He can still implement and have His will overseeding and over encompassing the will of human being, to the point that one human being cannot harm or benefit another human being or another animal or even like a plant, except if Allah allows it. And many times, if Allah doesn't want it, He will intervene, even if there are physical means and an intention from a human being to harm or to do something to another human being or another creation. Allah can intervene and He prevents that, and we have several examples of that. And this also gives us like a very unique perspective of submission, right? That you're willfully submitting to Allah. You have a choice. You can go one way or the other, but you're willfully submitting to Allah. It shows the other sides of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or other attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as forgiveness, such as taking retribution, punishment, and so on and so forth. Okay, so basically, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them about, the story continues. Allah actually demonstrates the superiority of Adam alayhi salam, the first human being, over the angels by blessing him with knowledge. And then it is demonstrated by the angels being tested, and they realize that they don't know everything. And then Adam alayhi salam tells them what they didn't know. And then finally, the test happens, and as angels have recognized the superiority of Adam alayhi salam, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're asked to bow down to him and prostrate to him, and everybody does that except Iblis. Now, Iblis is another creation that Allah has, who has a free will. He was very nice and very obedient up until that point that he was among the angels, but then this is where his disobedience comes out. And that's just something very important, that hey, will we only obey Allah when it's convenient, or would we always also obey Allah when it goes against our basic desires, if you will. And when he disobeyed Allah, he actually argued about it. He justified his action. He wasn't sorry, and then that's how he was punished. And Adam alayhi salam, our father, the first human being, was actually told to live in paradise with his wife. And paradise now is that ideal spot that you can do whatever you want, except that Allah created one forbidden tree for them. Okay, that was the only prohibition. Everything else was allowed for them. And obviously Allah warned them about the Satan, the shaitan, but he kind of persisted, and he kept whispering into them and kept creating the desires and making false promises that eat from this tree and you will become like angels and you'll live forever, and so on and so forth. And eventually they fall into it. However, their reaction was different. They actually asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, compared that to shaitan, the Satan, who actually justified what he did. So now with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them all down, and with them, us, as their progeny. And that's now the test on this earth for people who will obey Allah and those who won't obey Allah. And the ones who will obey Allah will eventually go back to paradise, and the ones who choose not to obey Allah will be destined for hellfire. So that's the beginning of human being. Now we are in this testing and training ground. We learn from our mistakes, we do repentance, we do acts of goodness, and then finally we go into our intermediary stage, which is the death and the life and the grave, where we would still have the feelings, we would still experience pain and pleasure. And then finally, we would either be going as our life in the grave would either be like a first class journey or a painful prison. And then finally, we'll make it to paradise, or may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, make it to hellfire. So that's sort of the overview. And then, this is another beautiful hadith, if you would like to share, the hadith Qudsi about, when we do good things, we actually get closer and closer to Allah. So the more you obey Allah, the closer that you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your actions have a weight, obviously with the right intentions. And the most important thing that you can do are things that Allah has made obligatory. So that's just sort of summarizing what Islam is about. Okay, so that could be a question that you can ask a new Muslim or a non-Muslim. So what is the Islamic worldview? Is this world supposed to be like a banquet that, there should be no pain? Or it's something like, do whatever you like, as it's like one life you get and then you die, so enjoy it. Or it's a temporary testing training place with full recompense later. So that could be a point for you to make sure that they're understanding what you're saying. Okay, there are more resources. If you care about it, again, you will have the slides. You can go into it and then dig deeper. And I also use that for non-Muslims as well, depending on what they need. Okay, so obviously I highly recommend that before you actually speak to a new Muslim, you actually practice, right? So having it done once would help you. So practice in the mirror, or find a partner, a friend, a family member, and just practice. Imagine you're having a first conversation with a new Muslim. Just have a conversation with them, because practice really helps. So if you were doing it in person, we had more time, I'd definitely pause and have you guys practice. But please take it as a homework, take it seriously, and practice, inshallah. So in the practice, you want to make sure that you have a casual conversation. You know each other. You explain to them that, look, this is Islamic worldview, and also that, look, you're not going to do stuff for them. You're just a mentor. You're just a coach. It's their ownership for them to protect themselves from hellfire, for them to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want them to be overwhelmed. We'll be there as supporters, as mentors, but essentially they own their journey and they're responsible for their life. So as a reminder again, I preached it for time and what have you, but you want to have a discussion. You want to ask them open-ended question so that you can see how they think, check in with them, make sure that they're understanding what you're saying, and make them be comfortable and be okay, authentic with you. So if they don't understand, or they don't agree, or they don't like something, they're able to raise concerns. So this is really important, because if they start hiding from you, then you don't know what they're thinking, and you won't be able to guide them or help them or provide them with any answer or resource. Okay, so any questions so far? Let me just take a quick 1-minute break. And if you want to add a comment or question, go for it, inshallah. We'll still continue this module, but just taking a quick 30-second 1-minute break just to see if there are any questions. All right. So, 1 second. Okay. So continuing on. So this is a plan that we suggest. Like, I would typically have ask them that, hey, you know what? Look, if anyone is trying to have some goals in any area of life, trying to develop something, what they would do is, whether it be physical or spiritual or business or career, what would people do? Right? Anyone who has goals, there are certain elements that they can employ, certain systems that they can use to make sure that they're successful. Right? Now, spiritual goal, one of the things I also explained to them that, look, it's like charging your phone, right? Don't think that, oh, I have taken the Shahadah, now I'm going to paradise. Okay, so it's like you saying, okay, I bought a phone and it's going to work forever. No, the charge will keep going up and down. So you have to make sure that you are furnishing and growing your iman, your faith, by charging it, by good actions, by obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by continuing to learn about Him and being in good company, and so on and so forth. So here is some of the things that people can do, right? So one thing that, it's a great book, and some of these ideas are taken from that, is the concept between goal and system. Many people have goals, but they don't follow. There's no system, there's no progress. So the difference is having a system, putting in work, and having a way to deal with, when you actually fall down. So I highly recommend, okay, I think it's gonna come now, sorry. Okay, so 4 components. So we employ 4 components in our, spiritual coaching or new Muslim mentoring or new Muslim coaching, whatever you're calling it. So I kind of walk them through it. So the first one is motivation, right? So regardless of whatever you're doing, in general, you need motivation. So this can come in from different angles. The first thing is the first thing is to ask Allah. It's not the right order here. Maybe I should edit it. The first thing is to ask Allah. So this is something really important to emphasize. Many new Muslims don't have that understanding of dua, because they also feel shy to ask Allah. They're like, hey, I'm not doing anything, so I feel bad to continuously ask Allah, right? It's just like a human relationship. So we want to emphasize the importance of prayer, that anytime you're facing a challenge, it's recommended, it's appreciated, it helps you connect better with Allah. It's a form of worship. You're rewarded for it if you just ask Allah. So always ask Allah, no matter which situation you are in. He's the one who has guided you. He's the one who has blessed you with guidance. So always ask Him. The second thing is surround yourself with like-minded people. So if you don't have any Muslim at work, and none of your friends are Muslim, people you play ball with or sports with, they're not Muslim, it's not going to be a very, healthy thing, because you don't see people talking about it. So you want to have some people that actually you hang out with, or you play with, or that you see that you can look up to. Other idea could be that you surround yourself with content, right? Content being videos, or short posts, or reels, or whatever you call it, content today, or books, or YouTube, that actually remind you and motivate you and emphasize on the importance of Islam and the hereafter and worshiping Allah. Because by default, you don't see that, right? If you go to a typical university or work, or turn on the radio, you wouldn't hear about religion or Islam or practicing or God or what have you. Usually you won't be surrounded by it. So you want to facilitate yourself so you're reminded. So that can be done via apps, via social media, and whatnot. We'll share some of that in a bit. The other things that you can do is like just go to Islamic events, any social activities where there are Muslims, or conferences or classes, and so on and so forth. So that's component 1. Make it easier. Tweak your environment to make it easy for you to be a Muslim, to practice life as a Muslim. The second component that we'll talk about slowly is, now you have some guidance from Allah, right? Things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. And the things that you should do, how should you do them, right? There's a specific ways of doing things. For example, same thing, right? Like if you go and you want to learn workout, there are specific ways of working out, or playing basketball, or playing tennis, or have you, that will make you more smooth, that will make you more powerful, that will make you more effective at whatever you're doing. So that's a second component where we would cover some technical details, so that you can actually learn how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the third thing is we want to have some sort of a commitment from you, right? So that we have progress, and that is something that you would pick for yourself. We're not going to change the religion for you. So, for example, the religion, if you ask us, or if we tell you that, okay, religion says A, B, C, do A, B, C, D, and don't do A, B, C, D. However, doing one, for example, praying one prayer is better than praying zero, right? And praying 3 prayers is better than praying 1 prayer. So, if you can do all of it together, great. But if not, then at least you want to have some goal, commit to it, and keep growing from there. And then lastly, you want to have a follow-up, right? So let's discuss, how did you do on your goals, what challenges you are encountering, and so on and so forth. And sometimes, we do these check-ins perhaps once a week. There's some people that do this once a week. Some people like to just check in on WhatsApp. Some people, I use an app called Habit Share app. That's really powerful as well, where you can share habits. And then whenever they do a check mark, you get a notification of that check mark. And obviously, if you want, you can include other habits. It doesn't have to be all, related to worship between the human being and Allah. Obviously, we understand that all actions can become a form of worship, even if you have a habit of taking regular walks, or exercising, or eating healthy, or applying for a job, or what have you. So, and then lastly, if needs be, maybe you can adjust the plan. All right. So sometimes you may increase something or decrease something. You may adopt tools. So let's say if someone is forgetting to do some habit, you may adopt tools to message each other, or to use reminders and things like that. And I also recommend taking a look at a book called Atomic Habits. As you can see here, there are great summaries available, video summaries available, text summaries, resources, and a lot. So that's a really good system that people, and I'm sure there are others as well, but that's one of the systems or books I've used. So, and I have a lot of my converts read that or implement it. So I think that's a great book, great system, even for you as mentors. It could be really helpful. Okay, so again, you should, I want you guys to then take some time and practice all this before you actually have a conversation with a Muslim. So again, 4 areas: motivation, teaching them a bit of do's and don'ts, right? But keep an eye, if the person is not motivated, they're not motivated to do wudu, they're not motivated to pray, don't spend too much time on teaching them how to make wudu, right? Because if they're not committed to Islam, then you just want to basically do the dawah, and we'll talk about some of that content in a bit, but you want to then keep motivating on that. Okay, so this is a quick slide. 4 components: motivation, the why, inspire them, how do we worship, right? The details, the fiqh, the do's and the don'ts, and having some sort of goals from them, not from you, from them, from the actual person that you're coaching. Okay, and then you will review and adjust, and help them overcome any blockers that they are facing. Cool. So then we are jumping onto the next section. So here are some of the resources. For prayer, I use Muslim Pro. Now I also use another app called Adhan, ATHAN. Maybe I should update that. Some of the basic YouTube channels that I've found useful is One Path Network, Talk Islam. This is not deep content, just basic short content. Kalima and Islam-Wise are new Muslim focused channels. There are prayer apps that I'll show you in a minute. And then obviously New Muslim Academy is a big resource. Let them go and actually complete those courses. IRA also has some recorded courses. I'll show you all that in a second. And then before you leave, you want to have a plan that, okay, should we have a call once a week, or will we meet up once a week, or how would you follow up, right? So make sure you have some sort of agreement on that. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly talk about some common obstacles that comes up. You can mention it in the first meeting, or you can mention it when they come up. Help them understand that, look, they're accepting Islam, okay? That doesn't mean now that they have to defend Muslims from all around the world. So if you see a news story saying, oh, a Muslim did this in Canada or US or somewhere else in the world, that doesn't mean that they have to justify, right? A Muslim doing something, the media will say it, a Muslim did it, and they will imply in a subtle way that as if Allah subhanahu as if Islam teaches them to do this, okay? But it's just an action of someone who subscribes or who adheres or who identifies as a Muslim. Okay. The second thing is I tell them, look, when you go to the masjid, someone may come and tell you, oh, do this way, or oh, when did you become Muslim? Tell me your story. So tell them just like feel free to have a conversation that you're comfortable with. So if someone is correcting you, they are doing it out of love and care. We encourage them not to do that. We actually encourage the community not to start correcting people, because that makes new Muslims very self-conscious, and I don't think people like that. So what they should do is, in general, when the community is listening to us, we tell them, hey, if you see something wrong, come and tell us, and we'll just go tell the new Muslim, hey, you know what, we have a new Muslim program. I see you're a new face. Do you know someone here? Would you like me to introduce you to the team here? Can I have your contact, and I'll have someone from the team contact you? So that would be the ideal thing. But hey, you're gonna always have people, the uncles, the aunties, or anyone, frankly speaking, who can come and try to correct a new Muslim, whether it be commenting on their clothing, or the way they are praying, or the way they are dressed, or whatever. So if something like that happens, just thank them and say, yes, I have a mentor, I'm working with them, and then you and I can talk about it. And lastly, obviously, no one owns the masjid. It's a public place. It's a place to serve you. So keep coming. Over time you will make friends. You'll have a friendship with people that you like. But don't think that anyone owns the masjid. You are free to benefit and visit and learn and benefit from it as much as the other person. All right. Another things and the common issues is sometimes what happens is they're trying to please everyone, right? Oh, this person does it, so me and him, or me and her should be in alignment. Yeah, it's okay that within Muslims there are many differences of opinion, whether it be academic, whether it be employment, whether it be business related, whether it be political. It's okay to have those small differences, and you shouldn't confirm with everybody else. You have your own personality, as long as it's not a matter of deen. There's no right or wrong way. People are different, they have different approaches. In the same way, you shouldn't be like trying to change everyone and be like you. And lastly, don't become overwhelmed. Don't make it like something of a 0 or 1, that, oh, I'm not doing this, and I see this Muslim or this Muslim, he does this, or a beard, or niqab, or hijab, and so on and so forth. Grow at your own pace. Yes, challenge yourself, but don't get overwhelmed. Don't get to a stage where you will just drop the ball. Yeah, again, mentioning this thing, right? So don't try to be in a situation that if you're not doing everything, you will not do anything, right? It shouldn't be a 0-1 thing. Again, 1 is better than 0, 5 is better than 2, 10 is better than 3, right? So do things and keep growing from there. Another thing is, like, yes, there's going to be some technicalities when we do the do's and don'ts, when we are learning the salah. Yeah, it's a different language. However, Allah is not grading you or judging you based on your pronunciation or your perfection of the Arabic language, but rather what's in your heart, the sincerity in your heart. So your pronunciation can be terrible, right? You're struggling with it, and you may be praying with someone who is a native Arab with a great pronunciation, but your prayer may be so much more valuable and rewarded than the other person, because you're focused, you care, you're striving harder. So Allah is not judging you on technicalities. As long as you're putting in your effort, you're learning, you're good. And lastly, prioritize, right? Some things are more important than the others. Some things are compulsory, some things are only recommended. Now, even from the compulsory things or forbidden things, some things have a higher rank, something will. So just again, you're not gonna just run them through all this in one day, but keep that in mind. You will see that coming up, from as they talk to you. And yeah, they should feel free to openly talk with you. Something is bothering, it's a non-judgmental environment. It's an open dialogue. We are here to help. If they ask for something that you're not sure how to answer, or if they're not satisfied with your answer, tap into the peer network, right? So our network as coaches, as mentors, and within Dawah Canada or outside of Dawah Canada, let's collaborate. Let's figure out things together if there's any obstacle that we are reaching. And lastly, when you are giving them feedback, say, look, I'm giving this suggestion to you, right? I'm not making a decision for you. This is how I see it. These are the pros and cons. What do you want to do about it? Okay. As an example, sometimes people are like, hey, you know what? my parents are like, I don't want to share with them, right? So you can suggest how they will share with, how they can share, or some pros and cons of it, but it's going to be ultimately their decision if they want to share or not, right? So we're not making decisions for them. We can help them evaluate, do the pros and cons, ask in our wider coaching or mentoring network to see if someone else has any other feedback on that topic. Okay, so with that, you'll just agree on the next step, meaning like, okay, what will they work on? It could be some online learning, it could be some other stuff, and then when will you meet up with them next? Okay, so here's an example of first meeting. So I have a playlist, with so many examples that you can see. I mean, you'll see some really old ones, some really fresh ones, so you can go and take a look at it. It's like real examples. Okay, here is an email, right, that you can send them, or you can actually walk through them. I keep it up to date, right? So all the links, the reason I use the links is that I can keep it up to date. So obviously the first time I sent that, this document has been updated since then, right? So let me show you this document. Bring it on this screen here. One second. Okay, so this is the document. So that links actually takes you to this document. As you can see here, basically, it will congratulate them. And actually, so how I mentioned to you the first meeting. So these two videos are actually covering all these resources. So these two videos are my latest videos. I'll keep it up to date if, let's say, if 10 years from now or 5 years from now, inshallah, if there's a new one, I'll update it. But here kind of, helps them define our strategy, which is motivation, technicalities, goals, and reviewing and adjusting goals. One thing that I really recommend, we talked about it, the concept of asking Allah. So obviously, like, if people are not familiar with how to talk to God, so this is a playlist by, Sheikh Ammar Shukri, right? So he has done a very good translation of, the du'as from the Sunnah. And, that kind of helps them see how to talk to God if they need some sort of a model. So I highly recommend checking out this playlist if you haven't, and that could be a good thing for the new Muslim to actually get introduced to. So if I click here again, you can see it's like a playlist. So you see there's a playlist, right? Like 5, 10 or something like that. Okay, learning resources, right? So these are online learning platforms where they can create an account and they can learn from it. Or you can create an account and you can take the content from there and teach them if that's your standard content. Okay. I also recommend these two apps. So many times people don't want to be on YouTube because you get like recommended so many different videos. So these are, maybe there are other apps. If you guys know of it, let me know. But these are two very simple apps, very well-done content, really modern content, from a graphics perspective. And they can just spend like 5-10 minutes on this and they can learn a lot, right? If they don't want to go this route of, structural studies. Other playlists I've mentioned here, if they're more of a reader, the New Muslim Guide has a very good PDF that they can read. Okay, now here's important stuff, right? This is, all of that is important, sorry. This is about the prayers, right? Because that's the technical component that's so relatively hard. So what we have done is we have done transliteration, our own transliteration. We think it's better than what you find in the books. I'll show you how. So if you scroll down, so for example here, right? So it actually breaks it down with syllables. So Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, okay? And we also encourage and tell the converts that, look, there's nothing sacred about the transliteration. They can change the spellings, in a way that helps them, okay? So if there's, for example, I have sub for sub, right? Now, some people may read it as sub, right? So they can change it if they want to, right? Because what's important is for them to have something that will help them pronounce it. And this is also very important. Why? And let me show you why. So another thing that we do is like I have capital R for heaviness. Everything else is lowercase. But if I want to show like Subhana or Rabb, right? So I'll use that. If they can do it, great. If not, not too much to worry about. Another example I will show you is like, how I was showing you this video earlier here. So if you watch one of these videos, like, sometimes people just listen, right? So the brother was, I said, okay, recite to me Surah Al-Fatiha. And for example, he was saying, Ihdina sirata wal mustaqim, or something like that, right? So he added a wow, okay? Now, the reason he did that is because he was picking it up from audio, right? So, it's a new language, people don't get it. So I said, okay, fine, let's go back to this written down version here. And then he came here. And then I said, okay, now read from here. And he read fine. I'm like, okay, do you see the mistake that you were doing? And he realized, yes, he had a additional vowel, which wasn't here, right? So reading is also very important, and listening is also important. So anyway, so this is one of the resources that we have here. Now, there's also an accompanying audio, right? So here, if you want, you can send them one line at a time on WhatsApp or practice with them. But however, I also have a full playlist that actually covers all of it. It's 28 videos, if you take away the introduction, right? So each video is like 5-6 minutes. It will read it. It will show you how to pronounce it. It also tells you the brief meaning of it, and so on and so forth. So you can utilize that, or you can send them your own recording. So that's how you can teach them prayer step by step, the pronunciation of the prayer. And from an app perspective, I highly recommend this app. It's called actually, this is my video about overview of an app. So I highly recommend you check it out. It kind of gives you the benefit of each app. My favorite app, go-to app, is basically the app by people, these guys, Tenfold, right? It's Australian companies. They have an app which I've linked here. This is the Apple link. This is the Android link. This is really good app. I've done the demo of this app here. The video I mentioned here. So if you watch one of these videos, you will see the demo of the app. Okay, please do that. Please invest in that. It's going to really make you an effective coach. So this is a really good app. However, don't use it for prayer time. There's a Fajr error, but other than that, it's good. These guys also have a prayer mat, which you can put on the floor, and it will have all the steps. Let me show you. So they can be bought, right? So they have different people where you can buy it, so you can avoid shipping costs. So in Toronto, Scarborough, there's a place where you can buy this from. If you're in US, you can also buy it from if you want to. Some people buy it, some people just use the app. So as you can see here, they have all these people. So Canada Hijab Fashion. So Hijab Fashion has this product, right? Let me quickly show you. Oh, okay. So this is like a prayer mat, right? You can just put it on the floor and it'll follow along. What else is here? Okay, so for the timing of the prayer, I now prefer Adhan app. Okay, so you want to get it to them and you want to show them how to use it, because sometimes people don't understand that Salah times are intervals, right? Start time, end time, all that. Once again, if you watch this video, you will see this full thing explained with an actual new Muslim. If they want to have a deeper understanding of the prayer, for example, Sujood Sahwi is not mentioned in the previous resources. So you can read the proper, section from New Muslim Guide, okay? Or if you want more, you can, use that. Yeah, so that's basically the basic thing that you want to, cover in the first meeting, okay? But if you want more, let's say as the person grows, it's actually linked to more things, right? More apps, more websites, more e-courses, a lot of other stuff, right? So it's all there if you want to dig into it. Oh, I've been talking a lot. Let's go back here. Okay, yeah, so that's basically our module 4. Yeah, if you want to stop the recording, I'll take, then we can have another one for module 5. Let's see if there are any questions. We also take a minute or 2 minute break if you want to walk, stretch. Let's do that as well.